الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العظيم. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, in continuation of the mawdu' subject and topic related to this dunya, this worldly life, and the system of test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into this dunya and into the life of humanity or the lives of human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, definitely without a shadow of doubt, we will test all of you. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, it's something of fear, وَالْجُوعِ, and hunger. وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, and there will be a shortage of wealth and lives and crops or fruits. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, and give bashara and glad tidings to the sabirin, to those who are patient. And a major quality of the sabirin, and again, as-sabirin is a term that will be given to a particular group of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has selected or will select them because of their perseverance at the time when they're being tested. Their major quality, or the one main quality that distinguishes the sabirin from the regular mu'mineen and believers, and what takes these believers to the status of as-sabirin. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, they are those whenever they are afflicted with a musibah, with a calamity, with a difficulty, the various kinds of tests. If we take all of the types of tests that we human beings can be tested with, they will come into one of those 5 categories. And we have to display sabr, that is the 6th, or basically the main test, is the application of sabr and patience in all of these 5, of fear and hunger, shortage in wealth, in lives and in crops, or the fruits of the heart. So when we're tested with these, the mu'mineen and believers, whenever they are tested with any type of calamity, what do they say? قَالُوا, they say, إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Inna lillah, definitely we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our return. The statement is a very, very profound and powerful statement. Inna lillah, that we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are all a creation. The whole of creation is makhluq, and creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hada khalqullah, this is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is al-khaliq and al-khallaq. He is the creator and the ultimate being that creates. And He is such an amazing creator and originator. He can do whatever He wants. And because of the fact that He has created creation, He is the sole owner and controller of creation as well. He can do whatever He wants, however He wants, whenever He wants, with whatever creature and creation that He wants. There is no one to question Him, no one to challenge Him. In our day-to-day lives, we can never understand that level of ownership or that level of control, because we as human beings, we have never ever created anything. The makhluk, creation, we don't have the power or capacity to create. Yes, we have the power and capacity to manufacture, to invent, to build, but we cannot create. There are two major aspects within creation that are very unique, and they only belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is Bada' or Badi'. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Badi', Badi'u as-samawati wal-ard. And the other is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Fatir, Fatir as-samawati wal-ard. These are the extensions of the various beautiful sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to creation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Mudabbir. So these are very unique sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And very, very unique in the sense that the meaning is very deep. Unfortunately, as human beings, when we come to our lives as insan, when you go throughout the world and you see insan, humanity has not really, because of, we've been given intellect and intelligence, but this intelligence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made it dependent, and dependent on wahi and revelation. This inquisitive system of the intellect and intelligence, that it is always seeking answers, very inquisitive and asking questions, trying to find solutions. Many a times this intellect, it tries to find solutions in places that there is no solution. Or it takes the wrong route and it gets the wrong answer. And because we as insan, as human beings, we do not have the capacity, nor the whole of creation has this capacity to really recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and really recognize what is ilah. So because of that, we as insan, as human beings, we have come to various conclusions with the intellect. Some have gone into the form of shirk, where to them everything becomes worship. They worship anything and everything. There are others who, seeing something extraordinary outside of human realm and outside of human capacity, that becomes their ilah. On one side, you have those that make everything their God. You have like the Hindus and the Mushrikeen and many others, where everything becomes an object of worship. On the other hand, you have a group of people where they see something extraordinary outside of human capacity, and to them that becomes a sifa of uluhiyya, and they ascribe that to godhood. Such as the Christians, when what they did with Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, they've taken him to godhood and they worship him. And many other adyan and religions like this as well. But what is understood and what is a reality is that when it comes to understanding ilah and getting the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us His sifat and asma. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belongs the asma'ul husna, the most beautiful names. The meanings are very, very deep, we take the meaning and we understand to some degree what it means. And when you take a combination of all of the sifat, you get an understanding of what ilah is. And that is why we say, La ilaha illallah. That there is no ilah but Allah. Again, there's a very, very detailed discussion about, and this is going off into the field of understanding the various adhkar and this kalima la ilaha illallah, the various forms it has, the various stages it also has. That's a discussion for another time, but we do understand, coming to this statement, inna lillah, and we will try to keep understanding of this kalima as well to this statement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is Badi'u samawati wal ard. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. There was nothing then except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made the irada to have creation, and there was creation. إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He intends anything, He simply says, be, and it exists. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He was the only one and unique being. He did not ask permission from anyone. He did not ask for designs or the ideas or concepts, since there was nothing. It was just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existed. He did not need blueprints. He did not need different kinds of plans. When He wanted to create, He created. And again, this system of creation was also a display of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Particularly those sifat that relate to the bestowing of favors and the mercy and compassion and benevolence and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have Al-Kareem, you have Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, you have many other Al-Wadud and Al-Ra'uf, and many beautiful sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that relate to the bestowing of favors and love and compassion and the system of being very forgiving and very kind, Al-Latif, having lutf. And all of these sifat, when you take them, they are extensions and details of the sifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Ar-Rahman. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He displayed His love and His compassion and His bounties, and this extension of the sifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Ar-Rahman, this display. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the whole of creation. And He did this without any consultation or without needing anyone's help in any way. يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a system of regulating the affairs of the heavens and the earth. Created many systems within the universe. We call them the laws of the universe. Sunnatullah. وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You will not find any change in the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will not find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He'll ever deviate from His sunnah. So in essence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the sole owner and the sole controller of this whole universe. This is His. He is the sole owner. He is Al-Malik. He is Rabbul Alameen, Rabbul Samawati wal Ard. So without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can do whatever He wants, however He wants, whenever He wants. And this is one, when we say La ilaha illallah, so this is also one of the meanings of this. La khaliqa illallah, there's no creator except Allah. La ilaha illallah, so all the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are there. There's no Rahman except Allah. There's no Ar-Rahim except Allah. And all of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you can find there. In combination, they are just describing ilah. That is why you find in the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, you'll find the name Allah there. Inna Allaha Ghafurur Rahim. Inna Allaha azizun hakim. And so on and so forth. Again, this is one explanation. Now what is clear is that since this is the creation, we are also the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can do whatever He wants with us. As insan, as human beings, whenever we do something to the things that may be given in our care, whatever we do, our decisions, no matter how good they may seem to us, are very limited. We don't know what is even best for us, let alone know what is best for someone else or best for something else. We don't know what is best for us. We assume with the limited knowledge what is best for us. We as human beings, we make very flawed decisions. How many times in our lives we made a decision that at the time of making that decision, it was the best decision we made. And then afterwards, we realize the consequences. At the time of making that decision, how confident were we in our decision? And this is the reality of our decisions, because as human beings, we make decisions with very limited tools. We don't even know what's going to happen the next minute or the next hour, let alone tomorrow or next week or month or year. So whatever decision we're making, it is coming from very flawed ilm, knowledge that is very incomplete knowledge. And because of that, many of the decisions we make, there are many mistakes in those decisions. And yet, it's a miracle. We are still alive and we're still surviving and we're still in this dunya. Many decisions we have made in our lives, it's amazing that we're still here. And that also applies to all the human beings. How many human beings have gone? How many are alive today and how many will come? And we're still here. At least we are. So whatever decisions we make, we don't even know what is good for us, let alone know what might be good for someone under our care. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has ilmi muhit. Wallahu bima ta'amaluna muhit. Wallahu bima ya'amaluna muhit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfect and complete knowledge. He knows what was, what is, and what will be. He knows what is good for us that we might do now, that'll be beneficial for us tomorrow, next week, next year. Our example is like little children. We're sending them to school and the child is thinking, why I need to pass school? Why I need to get good grades? What benefit will this have? Because we're a little bit adults, we're older than the children. We have some intellect. We understand that if this child at least gets good grades, so he'll have a better future, a good future. We don't have confidence, but at least that is a general system that we have seen. So we encourage the child to work hard, but the child doesn't understand that. Similarly, we human beings, many times whatever may be happening to us, we may not understand that this is beneficial for us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever He decides something, even when He decides to test us, so that decision is based on complete knowledge and perfect wisdom. What may be harmful for us now, or what we may be being tested with now, in the future, when time will come, we'll reflect back on this test and say, yes, if I had not been tested, I would not have reached this stage. There's so many examples. Even look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the lives of Sahaba radiallahu anhum, especially those that accepted Islam in the early days, when the Quraysh were not leaving any stone unturned and torturing them and harming them and doing all they could to them. But all of that became a means of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum being very sincere. It filtered out any of those that were not sincere. Someone who was not really sincere in accepting Islam, they would not even think of accepting Islam in those days. There was no idea of there being any kind of munafiq or hypocrite in the early days of the message of Islam, in the early years, especially most of the time of Makkah, the Meccan period. But that also became a means of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum migrating and making hijrah to a better land, to a better place. At least better in the sense where politically and socially they'll be able to have some level of establishment. And then they migrated to Yathrib or Medina. And we know how much benefit came from that. But because the Muslims were in power in Yathrib and Medina and they were the dominating force, so there were many people accepting Islam in the hope of getting some kind of benefit. They were not very sincere in their Islam. There were many, many hypocrites. The whole system of the munafiqeen and how many verses in the Quran are related to their qualities and their evil deeds. But if that had happened in the early years, so they would not have been very sincere people. And for any movement and for any system to be established in the very beginning, and the core members must be sincere. If from the very beginning you do not have sincere people, that system will never survive. That is the system of this world. That is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not find any change in the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the very foundation of any system, you need sincere people. You find how many organizations in the world. And the very core of those organizations that are successful, you have people who believe in a vision. You have people who strive for a vision. You have people who are ready to lay down their lives and die for their vision. And because of that, the system is established and survives. And as soon as you lose those people who are ready to even die for their vision, the system starts getting corrupted. And eventually it falls apart. But for that vision and for that system, maybe not everybody will see it. Sometimes there are ideas that are very far-fetched. And it requires sacrifice. A lot of sacrifice is required. A lot of stability is required. So for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a system so that at least in the very beginning, those that accept Islam, they're the most sincere. They'll be the foundations of this deen. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum accepted Islam in the early years. Yes, there were sacrifices. Yes, there was hardships. There was tortures. There was so many, many difficulties that faced. But that was the time that Islam became established. After that, anything that came after that, it did not break Islam. Islam was not broken. The Sahaba, at least the very original members, were very, very sincere. They were foundations of this deen. After the migration to Medina, a system was already established. That is when we had all of the ghazawat, the wars happened, and everything else happened, but that was in Medina, not in Makkah. In Makkah, the foundations were placed. It was very well established. So that whatever stages may come after that, at least the foundation is very strong. This you can apply to anything in this world. The foundation of any building. How strong the foundation is, that is the type of building you can put on it. And for this deen, it's supposed to reach the four corners of the world. It's supposed to reach everywhere in this dunya. For that, foundation was needed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that system. Yes, at the time, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were told to sacrifice. How much difficulty they faced. It's unbelievable. Even the books of history, we read them, it shakes us. When we read and we try and understand the lives of those Sahaba in the early years, what kind of difficulties they had to face when they accepted Islam. So initially we may not understand the wisdom, but in the long run, when you see, you start to realize the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you see the wisdom behind a particular system, a particular event. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He never does anything except that it has very, very, very great wisdom and very, very deep wisdom and very extensive planning behind it. Of course, for us human beings, planning requires time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created time. When He does something, He doesn't need time. It's fixed and it's perfect. And that is something that we should also understand. That whatever conditions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places us in, we have to understand, inna lillah, we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fact that we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that also comes to the second meaning of this kalima, where our job is to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very clear. That is why we have the phrase, وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ or تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the ayat in the Quran, وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to understand that whatever is happening to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting us through, there's great wisdom behind it. Inna lillah, we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we trust that whatever He is doing is the best. It is best for us. As believers, we should never ever have this thought that these difficulties or these tests, that it is the results of someone else. This is thoughts from shaitan. That, oh, there's some magician that might be doing magic to us, there may be some hasad doing hasad to us, there may be some enemy of ours that have this much power. If that does happen, there is some system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates where we know that somebody is harming us in some way. At the end of the day, we have to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us and protect us from them. Not that we start fearing those people or fearing those, whatever they might be. And this is evident from the message of the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers. That when their nations used to threaten them, so the Nabi and the Prophet that was sent to that nation, he would tell the people that you go ahead and make whatever plans you want and try and harm me. You won't be able to do it. إِنِّي تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ رَبِّي وَرَبِّكُمْ مَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. They used to make it very, very clear to their nation that we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was my Rabb and your Rabb. There's not a creature but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grasped its forelock. There's nothing you can do to harm us. We're not afraid of you. And our Rabb has put us on a straight path. This is also even told to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You make this very clear to your nation. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ مَا أَرْسَلْتُ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ رَبِّي قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ وَلَا تَضُرُّونَهُ شَيْئًا. That if you're going to turn away from this message, فَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ مَا أَرْسَلْتُ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ, then I have made my job, I've done my job in presenting this message to you. وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ رَبِّي قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ وَلَا تَضُرُّونَهُ شَيْئًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring others that will replace you. And you will not be able to harm them in any way. So when it comes to our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to understand that whatever tests are going on, we should just turn to Him and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help, for His assistance, for His protection. And that is what is demanded of us, that when we say La ilaha illallah, with the meaning of that there's no ilah but Allah. One is the meaning related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of His sifat aliyah and Asma'ul Husna, His beautiful names and elevated attributes. There's also our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ma'buda illallah, la matluba illallah, la mahbuba illallah. That I will not worship anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purpose of my life will not be to please anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I will not love anyone more than I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That this will be, every believer has this in their hearts, or in their heart. This is also the meaning of ilah. When we say la ilaha illallah, in essence what we're saying is that we are giving ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as far as worship is concerned, as far as obedience is concerned, as far as love is concerned. Everything in our lives we have to do seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inni wajjahtu wajhiya lilladhi fatara as-samawati wal arda hanifa wa ma ana min al-mushrikeen. Such was the statement of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, that I've dedicated myself, I've turned my face to that being who has originated the heavens and the earth. I've dedicated myself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hanifan, being very dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being sincere, turning away from all forms of shirk and disobedience and associating partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. قُلْ, O Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you say, O reader of the Quran, say, O every believer, say, إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Definitely my salah, which means my worship, my sacrifices, my life and my death, everything is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbul Alameen. La sharika la, I will not associate any partners with him. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ, that is what I've been commanded. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and I will be the foremost amongst the Muslimin, the foremost ready to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chooses to test me, then what greater privilege can there be than that? Sometimes we might think, sometimes in our mind, we think that I'm being tested and a'udhu billah, this is something harmful. But can there be a better privilege? When parents love their children, they make sure that they train their children for everything. As far as education, they find the best education. It is very hard. The education that some of the parents, when they really love their children, they put them through very good education. Good education means harder exams, tougher classes, more stringent and strict systems. The children feel like they're being tortured. And if the parents even love their children more, and they want their children to be the best, they take them on extracurricular activities, martial arts and swimming and all the other extracurricular activities. Other parents who put their children in tahfidh, making them a hafiz of Quran, want the best for their children. The child feels like they're being tortured. The parents, because they love their child, they want their child to have a better future than them. So they make their child go through this very difficult system. There are some children that recognize that my parents are doing this to me because they really love me. And this is a means of privilege that when I pass all of this, I'll become a much better person. Otherwise, there are many parents in this world, they don't care about their children. They don't care about their education. The children can become whatever they want. They don't care. As long as the children are not giving them a headache, they don't care. For those who care, they want their children to have the best. And the children, when they recognize this is a privilege, that they try their best. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He wants the best for His ibad, He tests them. Because He loves them. He wants them to have the best of this world and of the hereafter. But it comes after you're being tested. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. عن أبي أمامة الباهلي رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. Abu Umama al-Bahili radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, this is a hadith, it's a lengthy hadith. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Sayyidina Abu Umam al-Bahili radiallahu anhu narrates that I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, اقرأوا القرآن, read the Quran. فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه, because this Quran will come on the day of judgment as an intercessor for its companion. اقرأوا الزهراوين, read الزهراوين. What is الزهراوين? Al-Baqarah wa Surah Ali Imran. Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Ali Imran, they're known as الزهراوين. فإنهما يأتيان يوم القيامة كأنهما عمامتان, because they will come on the day of judgment as if they are غمامتان, like they're two clouds. Or كأنهما غيايتان, or they will come as if they are two shades. أو كأنهما فرقان من طير صوافة, or they will come like two flocks or rows of birds. تحاجان عن أصحابهما, they will come interceding. They will be leading their those that used to recite them. Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Ali Imran, they'll be pleading and they'll be leading those who used to recite them. اقرأوا Surah Al-Baqarah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam further said, all of you should read Surah Al-Baqarah. فإن أخذها بركة, because in this surah, in Surah Al-Baqarah, it is full of blessings. Reading, reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, understanding Surah Al-Baqarah, take it, it's full of barakah, full of blessings. وَتَرْكَهَا حَسْرَةٌ, and it'll remove, or it is a means of getting rid of any kind of regret and grief. وَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُهَا الْبَطَلَ, and no type of al-batala can misuse it, can exploit Surah Al-Baqarah. No type of wickedness or wicked people can exploit Surah Al-Baqarah. قال Muawiyah, Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he narrates, he says, بلغني, it has reached me, أن البطلة, that the meaning of al-batala is as-sahara, the magicians. That the magicians, they cannot misuse Surah Al-Baqarah in any way. Or those who are wicked and want to misuse Surah Al-Baqarah, they're not able to do it. Rawahu Muslim, this hadith is in Sahih Muslim. There are many, many deep messages within this hadith. I just wanted to get at least the translation and go over the translation. Inshallah, we'll go into the details of this hadith in the coming halaqat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ.